Same thing with the alleyways. I'm kicking and screaming on that one, but yeah, looks like how everything is starting to go back.
We've actually talked with Marianne Crisanto with regards to coming to Blue Springs, and I visited with Sarah Suzanka, who actually wrote the Not So Big House.
That's a great book.
Yeah.
She has an architectural firm that she used to be a member of, I think, up in Minneapolis, and she's since moved out of the architectural firm. Unfortunately, their firm didn't have licenses in Missouri to work on projects, but we are considering sponsoring them to come down in the next year and actually do kind of a little workshop on design and maybe have several different speakers. Garden City Bank is offered to assist in bringing people to the community to talk on various topics.
That'd be wonderful.
We'd be glad to work with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Mr. Perry for coming all the way out here from Mission. And
Appreciate it.
as city councilman, you're a busy guy, and we
Yeah,
appreciate your coming out here and talking to
I
us.
appreciate you guys including us in the conversation.
Well, and you guys both brought some wonderful information forward. We're going to look forward to reviewing all of this, and we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back so that our visitors can stay, or we're going to talk about the zoning that we didn't finish last meeting, which was extremely exciting for all of you. I know Mr. Anderson is here, and he can attest to the I'm excited. We'll return in 5 minutes. Late. Where Mr. Allen went. He wrote the
Using the pretty.
Western Rate.
It's about time.
Yeah. I know you've been dying with that.
Absolutely. Nothing better to do.
I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We spent a great deal of time at our last meeting reviewing Lee Summit's and Olathe zoning standards. We had a few questions for staff. They were going to look over what we recommended and help us out with what was working, what wasn't going to work, and we were going to try and make a final decision regarding our recommendations for zoning. And I'm going to turn it over at this time to Mr. Scott Allen. We'll kind of re-review. I know everyone was here. For those who had to leave early, we basically were going along with Lee Summit pretty much on everything except for 2 issues, the open space and I think it was the side setbacks were the 2 issues that we were, like the flexibility of Olathe. And for those of you that had to leave early because we went over our time requirements, we pretty much did that down the line with each category. And then I'm going to turn over to Mr. Allen and we can kind of hopefully finalize our plans.
All right, right on the front page there, the information that was handed out. Well, first we have the minutes from Cheryl. She put together all of that along with the table with just kind of some notes on what had been discussed and what we had suggested some changes. But the front page here, and this is what Paige and Shannon worked diligently on. All the information here is just hopefully extremely thorough and comprehensive. And they broke it down into different categories here, with design being the last. Again, if we actually get to that discussion today, or you'll have some materials that we still look at for the next meeting. But before that, there are a number of questions that came up from the June 12th meeting, which were also identified in Cheryl's minutes as well. Talked about neighborhood meetings being required. So the 2 major codes we've been looking at, Lee Summit and Olathe, which of the zoning categories are most frequently used. Do they have that kind of overlying PUD factor with these residential planned, the RP zoning as we're calling it? And are there any model developments in Lee Summit and Olathe? Talked about active open space this last time, and then kind of the issue about the square footage per units or per lot, or
We're trying to just make sure the math was accurate.
exactly how does that all work. So those are the kind of questions that came up that we were then kind of looking at since that time. What we included in here too, we had the open space model ordinance. We talked about storm shelters as well, since again with multifamily, just some sort of group location to for rather than just run to some random basement if there is one. Or if not, again, Did you include the entire, yeah, there's pieces of Mid-America Regional Council, put together some good information in terms of reference materials for community safe rooms, many of those are called as well. What other
Well, they had good,
terminology they call those, but
Those
storm
were just-
shelters.
yeah, those were specific for multifamily, for hotel, motel, any kind of use where there's a bunch of people living together on multiple stories that may
Yeah,
not
these
have
are for
access.
larger scale
Yeah.
developments, but we started talking about kind of those higher density developments with Olathe's code,
Mhm.
and that's where that kind of.
Well,
that
what's
issue
your
came up as
higher
well.
density, what's your classification?
That's at
higher
18 units per acre, you were talking
Oh,
about.
okay,
That's-
so you're down,
Yeah, and the 3 stories or higher, things like that, I mean, just something to consider in addition to some of the changes that we're looking at with the zoning.
I think the
Anyway.
first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna address the questions, if you all flip.
Yep, that's
your-
fine.
That's the first thing probably, and basically, we were wanting to, I think it was the opinion of this committee that we were wanting to look at Lee Summit and Olathe regarding encouragement of neighborhood meetings with residents, and it looks like Lee Summit has something in their codes and Olathe does not. Would we all agree that we want to include some kind of language on that? I know we discussed it at great length at the last meeting. Do we want to include the language that's in Lee Summit regarding encouraging developers to meet?
so we're not requiring them they have to, we're
No.
just strongly encouraging.
Correct. So I think we need to probably go ahead and incorporate what Lee Summit says. Because it wasn't required, it was encouraged.
Sure.
And so is there any type of data in terms of how often that encouragement actually takes place? I mean, I'm just not for putting language into some sort of an ordinance or code that isn't going to happen.
Maybe
I
Paige, did you talk
just-
to Lee Summit, Paige, as far as how often?
I
it's
know
done?
what encouragement means. I've worked with some districts where if they say strongly encouraged, that means it will happen every time. Other districts where encouraged means it's your choice. When it was choice, it didn't happen.
In both Lee Summit and Olathe, it was purely choice-based. Though it was recommended and encouraged, it was still up to the developer to decide if they really wanted to do that or not. And there were no ordinances within the code with either Lee Summit or Olathe that would make it mandatory. So.
I mean, in my mind, if you're gonna, if we're talking to having a meeting, then at least they need to make the effort of the same sort of thing where it's communicated to the community, we're gonna have a meeting this day, if you wanna come, show up. As opposed, I mean, if not, why bother?
Well, we could also make it as a recommendation that when projects come before the planning commission and the city council, there's a criteria that staff puts in their report, and maybe we could recommend that in the staff report that's presented to the planning commission, city council, it's noted whether they did meet with the adjacent residents or did not. And that alone, I think, would encourage, rather than making it mandatory, that would certainly be encouraging to developers, because it's gonna be in the staff report, did you meet with the residents or did you not meet with the residents? And then, of course, the question would be asked, why didn't you meet with the residents?
Well, I guess my point is at least you're able to track, produce some data on whether or not it's actually occurring. I just don't see any purpose of putting any kind of language into anything if it's not going to be something that people are following through with. Or making some sort of more of a formal effort to follow through. If not, just leave it out.
Well, I can state one thing, as a developer and a lot of the developers that I know, especially in this community and others, whether it's in there or not, anymore, if we're going to have, especially of a multi-family type setting, into an area next to a single family, we're going to meet with those people in that area. We're going to call some type of meeting, have a shredder or just a couple of design shreds on it or something. We're going to get input. We definitely don't want to go to a planning and zoning meeting or a city council meeting and get blindsided by 80 people sitting in the audience.
Sure, and that's what's going to
Taking
happen.
two hours,
They don't
right,
like
and
what
we don't
you're
want
doing.
that. We definitely don't want that. Don't want to go through the expense that we have of designing a project and then going through that, because 9 times out of 10, the planning and zoning or city council is going to favor the citizens on that. If we at least taken the effort of going to the planning and zoning or having the meeting, not all of them are going to be happy with it, most of them aren't going to be happy with it, but at least that we have tried to meet with the people, made concessions for our development of what we're wanting to do.